Hi everyone, Bethany Sleeve Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of this new Westside Gunn project, 10. This is a brand new LP from Buffalo rapper, curator, label head Westside Gunn, who is now dropping the 10th installment of his long-running HWH series, which started a decade ago, and he hits us with it right after last year's double dose of Hitler Wears Air Mace, Side A and Side B, the latter of which he said in a recent interview essentially counts as the 9th installment in the series. And while 10 here is by no means the end of Westside's musical output, it is pretty much the end of this series. So I guess the question that remains is, does it go out with a bang? And I will say, in a lot of pockets of this record, it does. Though overall, this thing may not be as massive or as grandiose a drop as the Side A, Side B combo last year. Regardless though, Westside packs some fun surprises into this one. We have the lengthy intro track on this thing dominated by rapper and spoken word artist A.A. Rashid, whose voice has graced quite a few Westside Gunn intros at this point. This one I do think comes off a bit long-winded though, and I don't necessarily vibe with everything he says logically and philosophically on this track. It does make for compelling rhetoric though, and really sets the vibe of the album up, I can't deny that. But as soon as we are past this first track, surprise, Westside Gunn is being introduced by DJ Drama over a really chill and laid-back trap beat. We don't typically hear Westside over this kind of instrumental style, so that's a little different. But on top of it, this beat apparently was produced by his son, Fly God Jr., and are Westside's murderous bars and boom 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 ad-libs harder than ever? Yes. Are the hi-hats maybe riding a little too high in the mix on this one? Yes. But still, can we take a fucking second to say, oh, at this wonderful father-son artistic connection going on here? Especially since it comes out pretty sick and Doughboy's feature on the latter half of the track fits with the cold-blooded vibe of the whole thing really well. Following from here, we have the track Super Kick Party, which is proof that few rappers out there right now have the taste for instrumentals that Westside Gunn does. This track is seriously some poltergeist shit. Or like one of those images on the internet that's like, name one thing in this photo, and you can't quite. Like, I think some of the tones on this track are pianos or maybe strings. I can't really tell you. Just so many weird, murky tones hitting in this beautifully eerie way. It's absolutely haunting. And the punchy beats underneath that, paired with Westside's very clean flows, are a great combo. And Westside is honestly rapping on this track. Not really like the loose, kind of unconcerned bars that he's dropped on previous tapes before. On this one, he's just going and going and going, just flowing endlessly with no destination, and he sounds great. So this track, stellar, amazing, fantastic, love it. But I can't say I am as enthused with the production choice on Shootouts in Soho. While it is cool to hear some crossover between Stove God and A$AP Rocky and Westside Gunn, by the time A$AP's verse comes in, especially with these like spooky vibrato leads popping into the mix, it kind of sets in that this instrumental sounds like spooky elevator music. Not quite the vibe, in my opinion. However, I think the track PEPPAS hits a lot better on the production and the feature side too, with these bright rushes of strings and manipulated droning vocal harmonies that are gorgeous. But also, you can't really go wrong with inviting Black Star on a track. Talib Kweli is spitting bars that are as conscious as ever. Yassine Bey is bringing some great rhyme schemes. And Westside shows absolutely no fear in being the final verse on the track, and things do not trail off momentum-wise. He brings one of the strongest and most animated performances on the entire LP. Now, this track is a huge contrast as we move over to NIGO Lewis, whose atmospheric and syrupy mix and slow pacing makes this track feel like it's a fever dream. Even weirder is inside this very surreal sound palette, we have an appearance from Westside Pootie, who brings some really hilarious statements that are going to be seared into my mind for the rest of this year. Like, you ever get kicked out of school for being too fly? I didn't think so, and I'm only in the 4th grade. The progression of the track I could take or leave, as I do think it kind of trails off a little bit toward the end, but for the time that it's on, it comes off really strange and cinematic. Things pick up with BDP, which features Rome Streets as well as Stove God. The track is pure, grimy fun with a chunky boom bap beat, warped tones, a goofy vocal sample, and a random Montel Jordan drop in the middle of the song. The whole track has this fat, lo-fi saturated sound I love, and some lyrical highlights too. Rome Streets saying that it's pure poison on your playlist. I'm like the dark-skinned Michael Jackson, stylin' moonwalk talking on stages. Meanwhile, Westside Gunn is bringing all these outlandish drug and gun and wrestling references. We also have the amazing Science Class on this record, which is backed by a quirked up beat that has some very warm vintage bass on it, a lot of organ. Feels almost like something you could hear MF Doom on, but instead right out of the gate we get Busta Rhymes, whose skilled flows and lyrical focus bring some food for thought about friendships, friendships that are or once were. That, of course, ties very thematically into the beat, which has this constant refrain of, "We used to be good friends a long time ago." And if that wasn't enough, we also have Raekwon and Ghostface Killah on this track, and they bring their classic chemistry to the song too. Ghostface especially plays into the theme of the instrumental. And then from here we have Stove God and Westside trading off back and forth. That feels like almost like a celebration of a present day friendship. I mean, at the end of the day, what the song really is a celebration of bros being bros together, and that's kind of brotiful. From here, we move on to the final leg of the project, which in my opinion is a little all over the place. There's God Is Love, which is this two-part cut. The first half is just a complete mess, in my opinion. Doesn't really come together in any significant way. The loose flows, the disjointed samples, the formless woozy wailing strings in the background. Again, nothing like really coalesces, coagulates. It just feels so loose and so messy and just doesn't really form into much of anything. The lo-fi recording of Eastside Flip rapping over a beat that sounds like it's just blasting off some speakers that are in the same vicinity as he's kind of, you know, spitting this freestyle. That whole section is harder and more interesting than everything that came before it. Like, we could just literally edit out that whole section of the track and this would just be superior song. However, Switches on Everything, I am absolutely head over heels for. It is a powerful, inspiring, mostly drumless cut with some fantastic verses from LP and Killer Mike, aka Run the Jewels. The beautiful saturated organs all over this track are wonderful too. Stove God and of course Westside tie up things nicely on the back end. The highlight of Mac Don't Stop is its very classy horn-led Pete Rock beat, over which Westside Gunn delivers another impressive and quality verse. Like, the amount of quality and flow and just focus that he has when he's rapping now as opposed to one of the earlier HWH tapes is pretty clear. Now, the big finishing move of this project is the song Red Death, which is a posse cut, you know, pretty much featuring all of those Griselda fan favorites. Yes, Conway, yes, Westside, yes, Benny, but additionally, Armani Caesar, Rome Streets, Stove God, and Jay Worthy are there too. And it's a 10-minute monster. It is a long-ass cut, and I don't think it justifies the length, honestly. It does have its moments. Lyrically, there are certain verses and performances that stand out more than others and kind of, you know, make the track at least worth trying, at least worth listening to. But I think for a song of this size and this length, with this many people on it, a beat that is this heavy, slow, and lumbering is a momentum killer. While I don't think the beat is inherently bad, I think it would have been much more fitting for a shorter song. I think something with a brisker pace, something that's a bit more intense and kind of gets the group energy up, would have been more fitting for a song of this size with this many people on it. And while it doesn't ruin the entire vibe of the song, I do think as far as production choices go, this is one of the biggest missteps on 10. But with that being said, I did still enjoy the album quite a bit overall, and it's still handily one of the best records in the HWH series, and I think a pretty fitting finisher for the whole thing. Well, I am feeling a strong 7 on this one. Tran. Zishin, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head, it's another video you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Westside Gunn. Forever.